Good afternoon and welcome to this special and somewhat impromptu show in which I will valiantly attempt to live stream a live stream. I'm your host, Mark Anthony, and the purpose of today's live event is to look at how construction and demolition companies can get involved in the mammoth HS2 project, which everybody is currently talking about. I will be joined shortly by the Builders Conference CEO, Neil Edwards, who has been charting the huge number and even more huge value of the HS2 related contract awards that have already been let. 1 second. Alexa, stop. Thank you. Always tries to butt in, typical woman. Right, but before I bring Neil on, let's take a look at just what HS2 is all about for the uninitiated. Now, regardless of where you stand on the rising cost of HS2, about its actual value to the nation, about its impact upon the availability of construction materials, and about its environmental impact, there is no question that from a pure construction and demolition perspective, HS2 is like the gift that keeps on giving. And to talk about that, I'm delighted that Neil Edwards, CEO of the Builders Conference, is able to join us. Good afternoon, Neil.
Good afternoon, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Excited by what is about to be broadcast. Not often we have a minister broadcasting via our airwaves, although obviously you're far more important than that. As I've just said, HS2 has already delivered some absolutely massive new contract awards, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. We're looking at the information that we've got on our system, so like well over £18 billion worth of work. But it's not so much the jobs that are there in the contract so far. What happens is, it seems that once contractors are working for the scheme, additional works are just added to their existing contracts. So even though that figure may seem surprisingly low, what you will find is that contractors that are already working on a particular scheme, whether it be railways, embankments, etc., there are subsequent works that are added to the contractors. If you can, might as well just say architect's instructions, if we take the building term. So yeah, they're not they wouldn't be on our system because we wouldn't find those extra works because they're not actually being tendered for.
Does that contribute to this escalating costs that everybody seems so up in arms about? Like, I looking at this purely from a construction perspective, costs do escalate on virtually every major project of this nature. So it doesn't surprise me quite. I guess the volume of the escalation is quite surprising, but the fact that it's gone up in price is no great surprise. But is that contributed by what you said? Extended works for the contractors that are already there?
Exactly. And also we've got a situation now where a lot of the things are trying to adapt as necessary for COVID restrictions. So there is an element of cost there as well. And right at the very beginning, the way they actually looked at how the cost based was put down was slightly different to other projects. They were also including land purchases, what's the word I'm looking for?
Compulsory purchases.
Yeah, compulsory purchases for the land as well. That was all put in part of the original scheme cost. So usually you only normally have a build cost, but all the added add-ons were put into that system. So that's why the actual projects are increasing, or the value of the whole of HS2 is increasing significantly.
No, absolutely. Now, if my clock is right, I think we've got about 2 minutes left to roll.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Lee Upton, who is watching from just up the road, and good afternoon, Jose, who is watching from rather further afield over in Peru. I'll try to speak slowly because I know my English doesn't translate particularly well. Before they actually press the button to go live and we get the HS2 Minister on, I was lucky enough to actually get onto the site a while back down at Old Oak Common with Erith. So let's take a look at what those guys are up to just while we're waiting for somebody to press the start button. I've no idea why the end of that made it look like I died. Yeah. Artie is all well and good, but that was probably a step too far. I think we're due to start fairly soon. Good afternoon, Nick Drew. Shouldn't you be out on site, Nick? Yeah, let's have a look. Let's see if I can get the thing rolling. Let's have a look. No, it's still saying it's not started yet. No, we've still got a couple of minutes to go. One of the things that I did mention, Neil, was the impact upon the availability and therefore the cost of materials. Everyone's pointing the finger at HS2 because it is such a huge draw on materials. Are you still seeing that, or are the material suppliers starting to catch up a bit now?
No, they're not. Steel prices are going through the roof, and literally, if you're not putting an order down and actually placing that order with a firm delivery date, etc., you can see prices of £20 to £50 a ton being added very, very quickly per month. That is, that, which is huge. So the pressures that's putting on contractors is huge, and maintaining cost is going to be a problem going forward.
No, very much so. Having said all that, when we really scratch the surface of HS2, and I know it's something you and I have touched on before, we're not talking about faster connections to Leeds or to Birmingham or to Manchester. We're talking about capacity here, really, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. It's always been that delicate balance, and I remember going to a number of conferences regarding HS2 at the very, very beginning, and some of the slides actually showed that we were up to something like 96 to 97% capacity on our lines, and that was what, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I know we're now in a different world, and it's a different world, but we will get back to a world that we knew in sort of like 2 years ago. So we need to actually get connectivity through the UK, and this is a magnificent scheme for the UK itself, but also for the construction industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that tends to get mired in the controversy surrounding the cost and everything else. It's just the sheer number of jobs that this thing's going to create. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands, and plant hire companies actually putting in place training facilities purely to actually facilitate, that when that all kicks off. It looks like the event's about to start, actually. Let's have a look. Is it starting? These things are so sketchy. Let's have a look. No, the live event still hasn't started, apparently. I'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep talking amongst ourselves in the hope that
maybe he needs to catch a train a bit quicker to the place.
Yeah. Oh, the bitter irony. Yeah, absolutely. Apparently the moderator is saying they're going live with their event shortly. Okay. So just while we're waiting for that to actually kick in, and I'm not going to try and catch you on the hop, but I know I checked the BC Live League table back end of last week, and it looks like we're set for another bump a month all round. Never mind HS2. I think I saw it at 4.7 billion at halfway point of the month. Amazing numbers.
I've just caught up. Yeah, I'm just literally looking my second screen. Yeah, 5.4 billion now. So, we're going to be looking hopefully at another £6 billion month. That's over 370 projects on there. But there's no. It doesn't look like at this present moment in time there is no highlight of one singular project. We've got Vivo, which is a joint venture for defence.
Welcome to today's webinar
here it sounds like it's coming on.
It sounds like it's coming on. Neil, I'm going to put us both on the screen to begin with. But if you want to duck out at some point when I put it up to full screen, feel free. But I really appreciate your input for today.
Okay, good to speak to you. Okay.
All lines are muted, so you don't have to worry about any background noise. If your feed freezes, wait for a few seconds, as it will most likely correct itself. If this doesn't happen, use the leave button to exit the call and rejoin using the event link. You should be able to use the toggle at the bottom of your screen to rewind back to where you left. You can also use this to
just
pause
while
at any point
if you're
during the
watching
call,
me
should you
at
need
the moment, I'm just going to
if you disconnect
mute
or
that for
enable
a second.
your screen. You can turn captions on if you'd find these useful. And there's also a Q&A and comment
Yeah,
function
if you're
that you
listening
should
to
be able to
me
find at the
over
top
and
right of
above
your screen.
all of
And we'd
that,
love to hear from
just
you
bear in mind
throughout
that
today's
I'm
event.
broadcasting their broadcast, so
I'd
if you
now like
comment,
to
you're
hand over
commenting
to
to me
Robin
rather
Lapish,
than to
who
the
will open
organisers of this
today's
event.
event.
But I'm going to blow this up to full screen so that you can get the full value. So I'll check back with you once it's all over and done with.
Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to the second in our series of regional business engagement events. I'm Robin Lapish, Supply Chain Manager for HS2 Limited. I've spent the last 6 years helping to develop this once-in-a-lifetime project. I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Stephenson MP, the HS2 Minister and MP for Pendle. Today we want to reiterate why the East Midlands is so crucial to HS2 and how HS2 can be crucial to your business. It's really important to us that we work with you hand in hand to ensure that you can put your best foot forward during our tender processes and get as many of you on board as possible. So today we'd like to give you 3 things. Firstly, an understanding of the things that we need. Secondly, the first-hand experiences of one of our fantastic suppliers. And thirdly, some tips to help you stand out from the crowd. Alongside the Minister, I'm pleased to be joined today by Stephen Fisher from Total Reclaim Demolition, an East Midlands business working on HS2. 112 businesses from the East Midlands have supported HS2 so far, and we want to increase that number, especially given the hotbed of expertise that exists across the rail, manufacturing, automotive, and technology sectors. Please note that the event today won't be recorded, but a copy of the slides will be made available. Please also remember to get your questions in using the Q&A function. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so please post your questions at any moment during the session. So without further ado, I'd like now to pass over to the Minister for his address.
Thank you very much, Robin. It's a pleasure to be able to join you all and see so many SMEs from across the East Midlands attending this event this afternoon. For SMEs, the HS2 programme represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, really, to secure work on this phenomenal project, the biggest infrastructure project in Europe. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join today is really just to underline the fact that we are getting on with delivering HS2 as we build back better from COVID-19. There's a lot of nonsense talked in the press at the moment, and there is still some uncertainty over exactly what the network will look like. The government is working on an integrated rail plan, and that has led to lots of press commentary about uncertainty over what the eastern leg of HS2 will look like. But even whilst we debate that issue, and even whilst we wait for the government to announce its answer to the eastern leg, we are getting on with building this project. Phase 1 of HS2 is already underway. That's the phase Midlands to London. Over 16,000 people working on the programme already, over 500 apprentices, and about 2,000 businesses already involved delivering on contracts for the programme. And then earlier on this year, we secured royal assent on the Phase 2A bill, which is the legislation underpinning taking the line from the West Midlands to Crewe. And in the Queen's speech, we announced that we will be bringing forward within months the legislation to pave the way for taking the line from Crewe to Manchester. So after 10 years of kind of debate and discussion about HS2, HS2 is now a reality. Billions of pounds are being spent, and there are so many contract opportunities out there. In the coming months and years, we expect over 400,000 contract opportunities to be made available. So if you've never bid for HS2 work before, I look forward to you bidding. If you have bid and been unsuccessful, please try again, because this project will be delivered, yes, by some of the biggest names in the construction industry, but it will actually be delivered by all of you, the smaller businesses, the medium-sized businesses that can really help deliver this programme on the ground, delivering this huge range of contract opportunities. So really keen for you to exploit those opportunities. Really delighted you could join this session today. Robin is going to talk you through now some of the opportunities in more detail. But all I want to say is good luck. There are many businesses, over 100 businesses in the East Midlands already involved in the programme. But I want to see many more businesses from the East Midlands winning these contracts and helping us deliver this transformational project. So thank you, good luck, enjoy the session.
Many thanks indeed to the Minister there for those messages, much appreciated. So moving on with the agenda then for today, allow me to give you a feel for where we are at as a project in a bit more detail. So as the Minister said, we are full steam ahead with construction on phase 1 of HS2, heavy civil engineering on the first phase. 140 miles of brand new high-speed line from London to Birmingham is well underway, and last September marked the official start of construction following 3 years of preparatory works. We have 273 active work sites along the phase 1 route, with a huge range of works underway, from earthworks to ecology, bridge building to compound construction. Let's not forget we're constructing around 30 main construction compounds and around 300 satellite compounds to support the construction programme. Phase 2A extends the high-speed line a further 36 miles to Crewe in the northwest of England, shown here in the purple. The hybrid bill for Phase 2A received royal assent on the 16th of February 2021, paving the way to start construction activity. Ground investigations are already underway, and main construction will start in 2024. Phase 2B completes the white-shaped network from Crewe to Manchester in the west, and towards Leeds in the northeast via the East Midlands, of course, in the eastern leg. And as instructed by government, we're preparing a hybrid bill to extend the route from Crewe to Manchester at the moment. We intend to deposit this bill into Parliament early next year. So who are our key contractors and what relevant opportunities have they got coming up? Well, this slide shows the appointed Tier 1 contractors across our civils and stations categories. Contact details can be found via our online contract opportunities table. You can simply search HS2 contract opportunities in any search engine and you'll be directed to the correct table. So working from north to south then, the area closest to the East Midlands is of course the area of phase 1 in and around Birmingham, and Balfour Beatty Vinci joint venture is the contractor delivering the main works between Staffordshire, Birmingham and North Warwickshire. This is actually the largest civil engineering package on the whole project. Around 9,000 workers will be needed at peak, and the package consists of 42 viaducts, 66 overbridges, and the construction of 35 cuttings reaching over 30 kilometres in length. It is a huge undertaking in its own right and will need the supply of many Midlands-based firms to support that programme in its own right. So working further south from BBV, we then have EKFB, Farish Kia BAM Ferrovial joint venture. They are delivering the main works construction from North Warwickshire down to the Chiltern Tunnel North Portal. This is a longer section of route, but there is less density of civil engineering. It's mainly rural in nature. We then work further south and we are met then with Align JV, which is a joint venture led by Bouygues, supported with Sir Robert McAlpine and Volker Fitzpatrick. And they are delivering the Chiltern Tunnel. That's a 10-mile long Chiltern Tunnel. That is the longest tunnel on the whole project, and the Colne Valley Viaduct, which will be the longest railway viaduct in the UK. And then moving further south, we have SCS joint venture Skanska Costain Strabag, and they are delivering the main works in central and greater London. And this consists mainly of tunnel, so it's underground section of the route. And let's not forget the stations. On phase 1, we have 4 brand new stations to construct. Maestro Gardos joint venture are delivering the new stations at London Euston and also Birmingham Curzon Street in the heart of Birmingham. And Balfour Beatty Vinci Sistra JV are delivering a brand new 14 platform super hub in the west of London at Old Oak Common. And the remaining station we have left to procure is Birmingham Interchange in Solihull, and we expect a decision on that contract next year. In addition to these, there'll be opportunities arising from the early environmental works and early civil work contracts that have been awarded to Balfour Beatty on phase 2A over the next year or so. And it's the likes of these organisations who are more likely to go directly to the wider supply chain to deliver their scope of work. All subcontract opportunities are advertised by our contractors on Compete For, which we will discuss in more detail shortly. So given where we are in the programme, some of the packages being procured by these contractors are quite large at present because they relate to the heavy engineering, earthworks, and the supply of material needed for the main works. However, there is also a list of more SME-friendly packages in their pipelines as well. And as these works evolve over the next 5 or so years, so too will the nature of the opportunities coming to market. So what are the types of contract opportunities on offer? Well, there's 3 main categories of work. Firstly, services. Just think of all the people on site and all of the services they will need to support the construction programme. There's going to be a mini city of people along some of the areas along the route, and they are going to need an array of goods, works and services, occupational welfare facilities, site catering, waste management, logistics support, etc. So a really wide range of services required. We're also going to need professional services. This is a technically demanding project. It's a technologically driven railway, and we need specialist engineering, consultancy, creative services, and many other professional services to support the project. And then thirdly, of course, the works themselves, all the things you would typically associate with a major construction project: heavy civil engineering, construction materials, ground engineering, specialist earthworks, the supply of aggregates, steel and concrete products, to name but a few. And our tier 1 contractors have all adopted a very similar approach to how they are going to procure. They have a values-based approach to procurement. So this is not a race to the bottom on HS2. This is about tender award decisions based on the value add that individual suppliers can bring. And our contractors procure on a balanced scorecard basis, where possible, utilising and taking on board economic, social and environmental factors in making those decisions. They also run their own engagement events as well, so do look out for these, sometimes on a quarterly basis, to provide more specific updates on their individual projects. All the contractors are obligated to use a platform called Compete For to post all subcontract opportunities. Compete For is a shop window, and it's vital that you're registered on this platform to be alerted to relevant HS2 opportunities. And as I say, we will provide a bit more detail about that later in today's schedule. And lastly, the point I would make is around our Meet the Contractor events as well. And we run these on an annual basis, and it provides an opportunity for smaller suppliers like yourselves to come and meet with our main works contractors and suppliers on a face-to-face basis, and we run these every year, which our contractors will support us with later this year. And it's fair to say that different contractors, of course, will need different services at different times over the coming months and years. But the main message here is that there is a long-term pipeline. So if you've missed out on one opportunity, don't panic, others will certainly follow. The key thing is to make sure you're regularly checking the likes of Compete For to keep abreast of the latest opportunities. I would add as well that for smaller organisations local to the line of route looking to engage with the projects, we do have a dedicated business and community engagement team with a dedicated area on our website providing advice, guidance and case study examples of how to get involved further down the supply chain. And you can register with this team to declare your areas of expertise or interest and the locations in which you wish to supply, and they will look to marry this up with any suitable guidance or opportunities, working hand in hand with our contractors. And this, of course, will be especially important as we gear up for phase 2B and HS2 moves further east. So I'd now like to move on, if I may, and introduce Stephen Fisher, who's the Business Development Manager of Total Reclaim Demolition. Based in Nottingham, they were selected to clear several sites in Birmingham for us, including at Washwood Heath, which will be home to our high-speed train fleet. So I'll hand over now to Stephen to introduce himself.
Hi, Robin. Many thanks for the introduction. So I'm Stephen Fisher, Business Development Manager for the Reclaim. Demolition. We're based in Nottinghamshire. However, we work nationally. We have a turnover of around £10 million a year, and by no means are we the biggest demolition contractor around. So I'd just like to play this short video about what we do. We're a family-based organisation based in Nottingham. We've been working for HS2 for the past 4 years. Following a successful tendering exercise, we were appointed as one of 4 contractors. We have worked now on the UK Mail site, the former IAC building, and the Heartlands depot. And the Heartlands depot was where the carriage will be. Maintenance depot for HS2. We are now on the Saltley site. So this is Saltley Business Park. This was the former annex to the building that we're stood in at the minute, which was an electrical component. And this is now partly demolished. As you can see around us, there's approximately 420,000 bricks that we've recovered from the site, a further 1,600 tons of steel, and what will be left behind is around 2,000 tons of 6F2 crushed material that will be used on the line somewhere. Working for HS2 has been very beneficial to Total Reclaims in that it's improved our standards. It's enabled us to finance more newer machinery. It's enabled us to expand our workforce. So we've had four operatives permanently employed from Birmingham now. It's introduced us to and opened some doors to charitable work. RMF is a labour agency that work with people that otherwise find it very difficult to find employment. So it's people reaching towards the end of their prison sentence. We took on 2 of such offenders, and he'd got working with HS2 on his CV.
Thank you for that, Stephen. I hope that gives everyone a flavour for the types of projects that we have available and some of the work that our suppliers are doing on the project to date. So we'll move now into a bit of a Q&A. Myself and Stephen, and I'll look to pick up some of the questions from the floor as well. So please keep those coming in on the Q&A function. But if I may, Stephen, just kick off and just to explore a little bit more about how you came to be involved in HS2 in the first instance, acknowledging that you've been involved in the project for a couple of years at least now. How did you first hear about us?
So we've been involved with the project for over 4 years now. Various systems that look for tendering opportunities. This one came about, and my colleague Stella spotted it, and we pursued it. From the outset, obviously it's a PQQ, a lot of upfront work goes into it. But we spotted it on Compete 4 and targeted it.
working for Langer O'Rourke Murphy Venture, who are one of our enabling works contractors. And do you see there are further follow-on opportunities that potentially might become available on HS2, particularly with the further phases that we have coming?
Yeah, very much so. So obviously, hearing that it's coming to our home patch, these Midlands, it'll be something that we are targeting heavily. For opportunity.
And in terms of your procurement experience on the project, I think it's probably worth reiterating to everyone that given that HS2 is a publicly funded infrastructure, there are going to be certain degree of hurdles to jump through. Things are going to be competitively tendered. It's not going to be necessarily easy to win opportunities. Do you have any reflections on your own experience or any advice that you can impart to people on that procurement process, which got your foot in the door to begin with?
Well, it's easy enough to spot opportunities like this and be dismissive of them. Opportunities like this and be dismissive of them, thinking that it's for HS2, it's a big project. We're by no means the biggest or best demolition contractor out there, although I think we are one of the best. So it's easy enough to be dismissive of about that opportunity. But don't be, because working with LM HS2 now for 4 years. Due to turnover over those 4 years, so it's been a worthwhile exercise to
And over the last 4 years, then, in actual contract delivery, have you challenges that you've had to overcome?
Well, the initial challenge, or the initial challenges, were if you like, drive vehicle 4's registration. All of these were obstacles that we had to overcome. Having overcome those now, you would realise that they were simple enough to overcome. It wasn't that daunting, although it was at the and it's just improved and driven our standards. So it is worthwhile to try and push yourself that little bit more as a small business.
And I guess acknowledging that there may be some upfront investment required to get the likes of accreditation, but hopefully that stood you in good stead at winning further opportunities on other projects, perhaps?
Yeah, very. I mean, take the fours, for example. It's only brought it forward in terms of the industry by a few years. So it's not as if it's a big revelation or a big outlay of cost. It was organisational and labour intensive, but it wasn't an upfront cost. And I don't think any of the main drivers of HS2 are costly. I think there's a management and time obstacle, that's all.
And just for everyone's awareness, FORS, it relates to freight vehicles, does it not, and safety?
It does, yes. Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks for that, Stephen. I'll just pick up, if I may, a couple of the questions that have come in on the Q&A, which I'd be more than happy to address. We've got one here around tier 2 opportunities, which is interesting, and how the tier 2 contractors advertise their services and product packages. Well, we have in our contracts a cascade clause whereby the tier 1 contractors cascade the requirement to advertise all their opportunities on Compete For. They in turn write that into their own tier 2 contracts. So the tier 2 contractors should advertising their supply chain on Compete For, and to assist with helping you all understand who those tier 2 contractors are, we've recently published a online tier 2 contracts table on our website, hs2.org.uk. You can click supply chain in the top right corner and you'll be able to scroll down to see awarded tier 2 contractors. And we are adding contact details to each of those tier 2 contractors as well. So you can see the package, the contractor, and a contact detail. And the idea is we're trying to democratize the whole engagement process as much as possible and empower you all to, with the information you need to be proactive in getting in touch with those appointed contractors, so you can see if there are any further opportunities to arise from the delivery of those packages. So we have taken steps to try and maximize the transparency at the tier 2 level, given that that is where, of course, a lot of the work will be performed. And we've had another question here around an East Midlands-based in Newark, working news down in London, and they've been working with one of our main works contracting JVs, and they've asked about how they ensure innovation that there's been established on phase 1 and the tangible cost associated are not lost on the East Midlands sections, which is, I think, a great question, because clearly from a HS2 perspective, we want to ensure that the really good work that's been on phase 1, the great efficiencies, ways of working, the great efficiency these ways of working and the innovations are captured and fed into the subsequent phases of the project, QA and phase 2B. We have a whole work stream underway to capture lessons learned and knowledge transfer that we as a client will be doing with the help of our contractors. We have collaborative procurement hubs in place on phase 1, for instance, where all the contractors can share ideas and look for collaborative procurement opportunities. So there's some mechanisms we have in place that will transfer that know-how back into subsequent phases of the project. In particular, how we approach things like design, of course, as well, in designing sections of the subsequent phases of the railway. So that's a really important point. But of course, we do need the supply chain's help with that. So experience you may have on phase 1 will hopefully stand you in good stead for tendering on subsequent phases as well. There's a question here from a digital perspective and software development consultancy. Will you be covering any digital opportunities today? Not specifically, however, there are lots of digital based opportunities on HS2. We've seen lots of digital based opportunities on HS2. We've seen a number of our main works contractors procure software solutions. It's not all about heavy construction and supply of material. There's a lot of software and technology that's being procured and implemented on HS2 as well, whether it be wearables to support the health, safety and well-being of our workforce, whether it be to support the optimization of logistics and traffic flows, in particular, minimizing HGV movements and lorry movements as much as possible. So we smaller companies get involved in supporting the construction program from a technology and software perspective. So I would implore you to certainly look at the opportunities that may be available in that regard. So handing back to yourself, Stephen, for the moment. So you mentioned about some of the challenges. Are there other ways in which working on HS2 has benefited your business?
Obviously, to have such a project on the portfolio of work that we do is obviously a good accolade. Just coming back to the technology question, as a working example of that, not a specific requirement of HS2 or necessarily the project, but by best way that we could demonstrate our abilities in the way we were planning this project, we'd gone to a company called Bionics to do a for us. So just to bring that last caller for an example, it's not a direct opportunity with HS2 or LM or BBB or whatever. However, a lot of the subcontractors out there will be wanting that sort of software and that sort of development. So just as a working example of that.
much a technology project as it is a railway project, as it is a civil engineering project. You know, there are so many facets to this. Environment being a key one as well. So we've seen a lot of environment businesses win work on HS2, given the very, very high standards that we have and need to innovate in that space. Carbon management, of course, is a big theme for us at the moment. So that may not be typically associated with major construction. There are opportunities for you on a project like HS2 because it is so multidisciplinary in nature. And Stephen, have there been any other benefits to other firms in the region, in the Midlands region, as a result of your work on HS2? Has there been a kind of spillover of other opportunities for other companies?
Yes, certainly. So obviously throughout own approved supply chain, ancillary contractors such as asbestos removal, waste removal contractors have all been part of our delivery to the project. So, you know, although it's been responsible for over £5 million worth of our turnover, it's a significant. Well,
that's great to know. We have seen a bit of a clustering actually when you think about the 112 businesses in the East Midlands that have delivered work, which is great to see. We've seen the likes of HW Martin in Alfreton. We've seen the likes of Cornton Engineering delivering steelwork on some of our precast factories. We've seen a huge array of different companies from the East Midlands really get involved, and that's been great to see how they've sort of learnt from one another as well. And you know, this is why, you know, we're inviting the likes of Total Reclaim today to sort of impart those experiences and help other businesses in the region be equally successful. So it is good to see that kind of agglomeration, if you like. And I know you've been doing some charitable work on HS2, which is great to see. Has that been the most enjoyable part of working with our tier one contractor in the form of LMJV?
Yes, certainly from my point of view, it's nice to know that you are as a family business. We are very charitable locally in the East Midlands in any case, sponsoring footballs and sports stars. And myself, I ran the London Marathon not that long ago. My boss supported me massively. It's nice to come across some new charities that were presented to us by LM. One of a few of those was the Jericho Foundation that we donated some construction material to that assists vulnerable women in making things and getting some practical skills back together. Another one was Suited to Success that we assisted in some interview pods for their charity office. And RMS Construction Services, not necessarily a charity-based organisation, but it's an organisation that helps rehabilitation. So that was a great thing to be championing.
And hopefully you can use that as evidence in future tenders as well for where you've gone above and beyond and really added value to the local, which again is something that's really important to us.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, it's something that I talk about widely. Obviously, we don't necessarily go around shouting from the rooftops that we're a charitable organisation or anything like that. it's just nice to keep that in the background. But no, it's nice to be part.
I think it's often the case in the rail and construction industries where companies do really great work in their local communities, but don't necessarily shout about it always. And you know, that's the sort of thing I would, if I would themselves, putting that in a tender, putting that into your clients, and just demonstrating how you can really add value, I think can be particularly on a HS2 contract, where we place a lot of value on the wider social benefits of the railway from a jobs, employment, skills perspective, but also from a local community engagement perspective as well. That can be really beneficial, I think, to scoring extra points, as well as being, of course, the right thing to do. I'll just turn to the Q&A again. So there's a question here about funding for small businesses to upskill and gain certifications. There is different funding platforms available across the UK, actually. The likes of Innovate UK have funding. Some of the local enterprise partnerships may have access to funding. So in the East Midlands, the likes of D2N2, Leicester and Leicestershire LEP, the East Midlands Chamber, who HS2 has a really close working relationship with, may be able to direct you potential sources of funding and finance as a business. So please do engage those local support networks to help point you in the right direction in terms of funding. We've had another question. Let's see. On the noise barriers. Noise barriers is an interesting one. There's two aspects to this. There's, of course, noise barriers during the construction itself, but there's also the noise barriers for the operational railway, and that will need to be installed alongside the our contractors are actually undertaking an exercise and about to engage the market on the subject of noise barriers as a collaborative piece across all four of the main works civils JVs. So that could be something to engage with as live. So please do get in touch with us directly if you want to be pointed in that direction. Let's see if there are any other further questions. Next, Meet the Contractor event. That's a great question. So you may be aware we held a big Meet the Contractor event for our civils and stations last November, and we are hoping to launch a similar event later this year as well for the stations civils categories, but also we hope to have our rolling stock manufacturer on board as well, which may certainly be of interest to a lot of East Midlands-based firms, particularly with Midlands Rail Forum, the really strong rail cluster of rail businesses that we have in and around Derby. So we know there's some really great capability that we want to tap into in that regard. So once we have our train manufacturer on board in a couple of months' time, we hope to run some engagement events with you later this year. Start to signpost those supply chain opportunity, the high-speed train fleet. We're going to around 60 trains or so for phase one, so it's a really big project in its own right. So yeah, we really look forward to engaging with you on that. Stephen, coming back to yourself, in terms of advice and tips for a company thinking about bidding on a HS2 contract? Do you have anything you want to highlight?
From the outset, don't be dismissive of that opportunity. We're testament to obviously the procurement process and obtaining a place in that. So don't be dismissive. Don't think that the contract's too big or that there are bigger contractors out there that will be magnetised to this contract. And remain positive about the opportunity.
And if you are knocked back, I guess the first time is, bounce back stronger the next, and there will be that long-term pipeline.
Yes, it's great experience. Obviously, if you do get knocked back, and it's a learning curve, and there's reasons why that happened, and you can improve.
Yeah, exactly. We've had a couple of queries on the theme of innovation, which is always a great theme to touch on. I want to cover a couple of things on the theme of innovation. It's clearly really important to us. HS2 by definition is an innovative project. It's an innovative railway. It's world leading in many respects. So the end product inherently will require innovation, but also we want to innovate in the construction process as well, to do things faster, more efficiently, with less impact on the environment. And so there's a number of ways in which you can engage with us on the theme of innovation. We currently have our third iteration of our Innovation Accelerator program underway and open for applications. So that closes, I believe, on the 24th of June. So you've got a couple of days to feed in your entries on that. There's two main themes to this cohort competition. One is around low carbon, and the other is around safety on site. So do have a look at the details. We can provide those to every delegate that's joined us today. That's a great way for SMEs in particular and startups to engage with us. It's not aligned to a formal procurement process, but it is a great way of getting involved in the project. It will give you great access to our contractors, to technical experts, to the Connected Places Catapult and to Innovation Birmingham, who help us run the scheme. They provide free office space and support at the Bruntwood Innovation Park. So that's one way. Another way is working directly with our contractors. They're all required to put forward an innovation work bank into HS2 and provide those ideas in response to our key strategic challenges and problems. So they are required to go out and engage the market to bring forward innovative ideas that go through a multi-step process whereby we look to sift and select ideas that we then take forward and look to support or fund those ideas so that we can take them through development and into fruition. So the innovation process in that regard is something that you can engage with by engaging directly with our contractors. And actually, we have provided an innovation point of contact for all of the main works civils contractors and stations contractors, and you can see that on our contract opportunities table by searching HS2 contract opportunities. If you click more, you'll be able to see those contact details. So I'd encourage any interested company to engage with that process as well. And we also have an in-house dedicated innovation team, and they can be contacted at any time with any ideas or thoughts that you may have on the theme of innovation. So Stephen, back to you. Is there any final sort of parting comments that you wish to offer to the audience here today before we move into the final section?
Yes, I guess don't be daunted by the process of the compete for process of tendering, and even if you do get knocked back, there are still other opportunities out there of working for the contractors, putting your name out there, and good luck with it.
Great to know. Great to know. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really, really great to have your comments from the supplier and your perspective, your experiences working on the project. So thanks very much for that. I will now move on, if I may. If there's no further questions, please do keep them coming in. I'll have a look at those again before we close. But I'd like to just sort of move to the final section, which we want to give you a bit more guidance and help for securing work on the project. So you can get involved throughout the supply chain, from bidding and winning full framework contracts through to regular purchase orders and worker choice, i.e. where workers spend their money locally. So think about where you may sit in the supply chain and approach and the approach and route to get involved that's right for you. So of course it will depend on the type of service that you offer. But for those opportunities that are formally tendered, it's essential that you do register on Compete For. So Compete For is a free online brokerage service, and you can register free of charge. It's easy, and it ensures that you are automatically matched with relevant contract opportunities that you can then apply for. And it's important that you complete and publish your business profile in order to be matched with those contract opportunities. It will also allow you to search for and apply for opportunities. There's no right or wrong answers to completing your profile. However, to successfully register, you must have a health and safety policy if your organisation has 5 or more employees. You must have an equal opportunities policy, and you must have a quality management statement. The information you provide to publish your profile is completely confidential and only passed to buyers when you apply for a contract and give permission for it to be used to evaluate your application. Other questions relate to insurance, financial details like forecast annual turnover, and ownership and employee diversity for monitoring purposes. You can choose to receive notifications of any specific contract opportunities by setting your email alert preferences. You can also keep track of your account using the Compete For Activity Center, which has several tools that will help you to access contracts. Remember that opportunities on Compete For are only posted typically for a couple of weeks, so it is easy to miss things. So of course, when opportunities do arise, make sure that you take action quickly in expressing your interest. So what can you do to maximize your chances of success? Well, as Stephen touched on, it's important to lay the groundwork. So really do take time to understand HS2's vision, our values, and our strategic goals. Have policies in place before the procurement starts. So health and safety, equality, diversity and inclusion, and environmental policies where appropriate. Evidence what they have enabled you to achieve. So it's okay having a policy, but no good if it's gathering dust in a drawer. What has that policy driven your business to do differently? Have you been able to introduce flexible working that, for instance, has increased your metrics around a diverse workforce? Have you got more working mums, for instance, coming back to your business? Have you been able to measure any tangible difference? And that's what we're really interested in, is those tangible outputs that you've been able to achieve. Build your network. You're all here today, so you're all clearly proactive organizations, which is great. And so please do utilize these sorts of opportunities to continue to build your network, build personal relationships with your peers, similar to yourselves in other parts of the region. And of course, reach out to our contractors as well. We publish those contact details for all of our awarded suppliers, so please do check those out and make contact where appropriate, and let us know how you get on, importantly, as well. You can also check out our online supply chain maps, which show who's in our supply chain and where they're based, and we publish company names where GDPR restrictions allow. And of course, seek advice and help from local business support services as well. The East Midlands is really blessed with some really great business support out there. Once an opportunity lands, it's important to take action, as I've said. Really interrogate the opportunity. Take the time to really understand the specific requirements. Is it the right strategic fit for your business? Can you meet the requirements? Is it aligned with what you're really good at doing? Understand the process. Are you crystal clear on how the procurement will work? What is the process? What's the evaluation criteria, the response deadlines? What's the competition likely to be? And most importantly, what do you need to do to win? How can you win the competition? Consider partnering with other suppliers if appropriate. And we've seen some great examples on HS2 of smaller companies in particular joining forces to submit a more compelling proposition to one of our contractors than they would have been able to achieve had they gone it alone. So there is a real message there around collaboration, not competition in many cases, whereby HS2 as a project is big enough for everyone to have a share. So, you know, that collaboration message is really, really key for delivering what we need. I think it's fair to say that it's important to be true to your core competencies as a company. Certainly challenge yourself, but build upon your core strengths rather than a scattergun approach, which may lead you off on tangents and leave you pursuing too many opportunities on a half-baked way. So no doubt you've got a limited budget and resources for bidding, so make sure you pick your targets really carefully. Make a plan. Treat any tender exercise as a mini project in its own right. So get someone to manage that tender writing process, allocate tasks, set deadlines, and ask questions if you're not sure. Ask questions of the buyer every step of the process. So use those procurement portals that all of our contractors will use. And they may not all use the same procurement portal, but whichever they're using, make sure you engage with it. There's always an opportunity to raise clarifications, and they should be directed via these official sources. And when you register your interest early on, it means that you will get any further clarifications or updates from the buyer as the process goes through. Evidence your capabilities, absolutely, and your approach to delivering the works or service. This is what a tender process is all about. It's about your approach to delivery. Avoid making hollow statements. So we are the best in the business, and we are, you know, try and back that up with some specific tangible evidence. Have you won any awards? Have you got any referrals, recommendations, references from other projects? So show us where you've done it before and provide that real strong evidence. Consider any case studies that supplement your proposals and bring them to life, demonstrating any lessons learned and implemented as part of that, so you can demonstrate that continuous improvement. And this may sound blindingly obvious, but it's really important to answer the question that's asked as well, not necessarily what you think we or our contractors want to know, but just be really specific in addressing that particular question. I always think of this as sort of addressing an exam. Make it as easy for the assessor as possible. They have a lot to read through in a short space of time, so make it really easy to follow, easy to read, well structured. Certainly avoid copying and pasting any previous answers because it can be quite obvious. And consider any weightings as well, so you really know where to direct your efforts in attaining the highest marks. And as I say, it's important that you recognise that an assessor will only be able to evaluate you based upon what's written down. So just because you may have worked with a particular client before, or indeed on a HS2 contract, don't assume an individual assessor will know anything about you or your organisation. So please put everything down on paper. We can only evaluate on an objective basis on the basis of what is there. And don't be modest. We are a modest industry. Please do shout about your achievements and make sure they are well known, well marketed. Irrespective of the outcome, please do always ask for feedback and reflect on why the procurement outcome was reached. It's important to that you can understand what you need to do better or differently next time. Our contractors should be providing you with feedback if you're unsuccessful, and if you have any issues in that regard, then please do let us know. The important message here is that a project of the scale and longevity of HS2 is such that it will keep producing opportunities. There is likely to be a niche that is just right for you, so please do keep persevering. So to close, here's some things that you can do right now. Please do view our collateral on the website under the supply chain section. So hs2.org.uk, go to the top right of the page, click supply chain. That will take you to all the guidance and material that's available, including our contracts opportunities tables, our tier 2 contract table, and our supplier guide, which is a really great document to read to get you under the skin of the project. It provides company profiles on all of our main contractors and provides you information on what's important to us in terms of environment, community engagement, sustainability, quality, diversity and inclusion, skills, education, employment, etc. So all these wider benefits that are really important to what we're trying to achieve. We've also got a really comprehensive FAQs document as well, which is specific to the supply chain. That includes a number of themes such as health and safety, how we're going to operate the railway, what our approach is to insurances, fair payment, all sorts of other supply chain relevant information. So have a look at those FAQs and our maps as well, as I mentioned, and the case study materials. And we have a load of videos on there from suppliers similar to Total Reclaim, where you can watch and really get a feel for other companies that have done well on the scheme so far. It goes without saying, again, reiterating the point, but please do register on Compete For. If you do nothing else today, please make sure that your profile is up to date, it's working for you, you've set up the right alerts, and you're receiving the right information. Use industry resources like the Supply Chain School. HS2 is a member of the Supply Chain School and can give you access to all sorts of self-assessment tools, e-learning, guidance, and other materials, which is a really great suite of resources. I've mentioned it before, but please do work with local support services like the Chamber of Commerce. The East Midlands Chamber is a fantastic Chamber of Commerce. They're really proactive and they can really help your business. So I'd encourage you to work with them. They know a lot about HS2 and we work closely with them as well. And lastly, of course, you can always get in touch with ourselves directly. You can email myself and the members of the supply chain team at HS2 using the sec@hs2.org.uk mailbox with your ideas, your thoughts, your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I want to hear from you. And over the coming weeks, we will be speaking to different regions and nations across the UK. So if you'd like to sign up to any future sessions, all of which will have a supplier delivering for us in that area, then you can do so. We can provide the link on Eventbrite for you to do just that. So with 8 minutes to go, I think I will wrap up there. So thank you so much for your attention this afternoon. Thank you all for your questions. I'll have a quick final check to see if there are any final questions. And I've got one question here which we can take offline, which is around the Safety on Site Innovation Group. So I'd be happy to take that up after the session. But there's no other questions that I can see at the moment. So yes, that just leaves me to thank you all for your time. Greatly appreciated. And we hope as many of you as possible will join the HS2 family in the future.
Well, that just about wraps it up from this show. Lots to look back on. Obviously, lots of opportunities there for lots of work for lots of companies. Congratulations to the team over at Total Reclaims for already being involved and being invited to take part in that session as well. One of my takeaways on that session was the fact that there was a lot of talk about innovation, and in terms of today, innovation is very much at the forefront. Let me think, an hour and 45 minutes. I will be back here again for the third time in the day. I do apologise if you're getting bored of my face. Yeah, 6 o'clock this evening, or 7 o'clock Central European time, the mighty Komatsu are finally unveiling their K100 boom switch system. We have focused on that before, but tonight is the official launch, so we get to learn exactly what it is and how it will work and how it will help you be more productive and all the good things that go with it. So without further ado, I need a cup of tea because I've just been sat here doing nothing for the last hour and a half. Get myself a cup of tea, get back here at 6 o'clock this evening. If you're around, we'd love to see you here. Have your questions ready, and we will do our level best to answer them. And if you can't be here at 6 o'clock, like if you've got to watch the football or something similar, I'm back here again at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for the usual breakfast show. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again very soon.